for being with us. I want to ask you about concerns regarding what this bill might do to the deficit and how this math adds up. By extending these tax cuts that mostly benefit the wealthiest Americans, according to a number of estimates, we're limiting the revenue that the government takes in, and that's being offset, in theory, with cuts to programs that mostly benefit lower income Americans, but not enough is actually being cut to fully offset the lost revenue. So how are you not adding to the deficit while taking away critical resources from the working class?
Well, Boris, I disagree with a couple of things that you just said. This bill does not overly benefit the most wealthy individuals. If you look proportionately with the tax cuts, the fact that people have higher wages as you move forward with a growth in economy, it actually helps, as we saw during the first Trump administration, actually help lower and middle income individuals higher. Yes, there is a small smidgen of the highest earners that still gain a little bit. But remember, the top 10% of earners in this country pay 75% of the taxes. And that percentage actually went up after the Trump tax cuts in 2017. So that's a real fallacy as to what the tax cuts do. They bring the whole economy up. Again, if we don't pass this, it's a average $1,700 tax hike on the average individual. So I really want to try to be objective when we're talking about this and not have hyperbole one way or the other. There are some things in this bill that I think are great. We're going to allow small businesses really to grow, which is really the mainstay employer of this country. We're going to let corporations still be able to expense and do things so that they can grow their economies, and then they can employ more individuals. There are challenges with this. Some of these things. The Senate did some things that I don't agree with. It's just depend upon when it comes back. And they just literally passed it. And I have calls with my staff and other individuals this afternoon to see what I'm going to be able to tolerate. Or is this something that a significant number of individuals in the House are not going to be able to tolerate, and we need to send it back to the Senate for conference?
Sure. I just want to be precise on a number of things, Congressman. It's not necessarily hyperbole the way that I described the bill, given that a number of independent analyses have estimated the effects that the entire bill are going to have on both higher income and lower income Americans. Also, it's very possible that Republicans, those in control of Congress, could have separated extensions to the tax cuts from the more broad cuts to Medicare, for example. Generally, though, I know that there are some disagreements over what it's going to do to... correct, yes, Medicaid. There are some disagreements over what it's going to do to the deficit, but you have previously expressed apprehension about lifting the debt ceiling. The House bill raises it by $4 trillion, the Senate version by even more. So then how do you respond to Elon Musk when he writes, quote, "What's the point of the debt ceiling if we keep raising it?"
Yeah, well, I think that's true. I think that the debt ceiling is this artificial barrier that we impose upon ourselves, literally as just a reminder that we spend out of control. I think what has to look at, and you've looked at what CBO has said about raising the debt, et cetera. CBO, I'm sorry, and I've said this many times before, they get it wrong just as often as they get it right. You can't look at just part of an equation. You have to look at a second part of an equation. And they have our growth estimate down to a paltry, meager 1.8%. There's no way that's going to happen. It's going to be in the high twos, if not in the mid threes, to be able to grow things. So you will grow the economy, you will grow receipts. And again, we can't necessarily be stuck on a number when it comes to the deficit. We have to look at the proportion, the debt to GDP ratio. And if we're creating and increasing that delta, that's really the best marker for our bond markets, especially to say that the economy is good and that we're not going to default on our debt. So again, if you're looking at what the one side is going to say, if you look just at the loss column, you get one figure. But if you look at the total picture, as in the gain column, I think we're in a much, much better place than we would be without this bill.
I do want to get to the impact that this might have on folks in communities like yours and the care that they're provided.
Sure.
But I do want to ask whether you're concerned about the threats from Elon Musk. He's talking about primarying Republicans who vote for this bill. He's spent something like $300 million on the last election. Are you comfortable being on a potential list of names that he's promising to take down?
Boris, I have from day one come into this office because the good people of Eastern North Carolina voted me in. And I think they believe in my ability to look at issues and to try to make good decisions. If they feel for some reason that I'm not the right one, then, I've got a backup. I can go back and be a lowly surgeon full time. So, I don't get caught up in these extraneous threats or whatever. I think Elon is pure in heart. He's really trying to do what's right for the country. I have no problem with that. It's just when you have people with strong opinions that get in the way and make threats, I don't respond to those. I'm just trying to do my job and trying to do what's best for this nation and for Eastern North Carolina.
I do want to let our viewers know you are a physician, as you noted, a surgeon. So you probably have a keen interest in how the care that folks receive and their health insurance might be impacted by this bill. There's another skeptic of the BBB closer to home. That's the senior senator from North Carolina, Tom Tillis. He says that this bill betrays President Trump's promises by slashing nearly $1 trillion in Medicaid funding. Do you think that Senator Tillis is wrong or misinformed?
No, I think he did a very good job of getting three independent agencies to look at what the effects of the Senate bill are. And, I think the Senate approach and the House approach are two different things. We were very clear in the House on waste, fraud, abuse. There's definitely waste. People who should not be on Medicaid rolls should not be there. For example, in North Carolina, you are not allowed to audit the Medicaid rolls, which should be done twice a year for eligibility requirements. If you're an impoverished child, pregnant female, disabled, impoverished senior, those are the eligibility requirements. If you're not, you don't fit those, you should not be on Medicaid. The second thing is people in the country illegally. We took in 13, 15 million individuals. Why is it up to the taxpayer to provide health care for them? And then finally, able-bodied. Boris, I still see patients. I saw them this morning. In fact, most people I see are on Medicaid because I have to do this for free. That said, we have to have a program that works for the individuals who is it supposed to work for. Now, so that was approach in the House, the waste, fraud, and abuse. The Senate's taken a different approach, looking at some of the problems that have occurred with hospital reimbursements. The fact that they tax themselves, send money to the state, and the state draws down $2 from the federal government for every dollar that they get taxed. And there's some sham in that system, and it's grown over the last decade. We have to get back to where we have resources that are for the population of Medicaid. And not for individuals who don't need to be on that. I'm going to be studying their final proposal a lot more this afternoon, and I'll make a decision this afternoon or this evening.
Quickly, Congressman, once you review that, can you guarantee your constituents, those in the country legally, those not committing fraud to obtain care, that they're not going to lose their coverage?
That's the intent. That's the intent. Somebody came up the other day about paperwork, this, that, and the other stuff. Well, that's part of being an adult. You have to do paperwork. The intent is to create a system that cares for our most vulnerable, those who are least able to be able to afford health care, and provide them the health care while still have a government that we do not go bankrupt. People really need to understand we're really trying to just keep the country solvent in doing all these things. It's a painful time, but it's the only chance we really have. Otherwise, this country and this nation fails. And I'm not going to allow that happen on my watch.
Congressman Greg Murphy, we have to leave the conversation there. Appreciate you sharing your point of view.
Thank you, Boris. Have a good day.
You too. Still to come, as the Senate voted on the mega bill that will boost funds for the president's immigration crackdown.